Hello, I am sorry I am late. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Kenda Ruth from The Hero Spouse, and I am going to answer your questions. I have 6, I believe, pre-submitted questions. And if there's any time and anyone has any questions in the comments, you can ask. But we will go through those questions. I have them each numbered so that if you listen to a replay with a transcript, you can actually find the questions quickly. And before we start, we're going to go over some business. I am going to be reading off of my computer today for the questions because my printer here stopped working, which is why I was about 2 minutes late. So I'm going live in 3 places. I'm going live on YouTube. I'm going live in a public page on Facebook. If you make comments and you are on the public page, others may see your comments. So you could get, your friends could get notified if you have it set up that way. And then I'm going live in a private Facebook group. If you're in the private group, your comments, when you comment, will only be seen by the private members. So I'm going to go refresh my screen and make sure that I am coming in each area. So give me a moment while I get through there. Okay, and I'm going to mute my computer, otherwise we were going to hear feedback. So hold on. Okay, good, coming through. And if I'm having any issues, if you can't hear me or anything, just let me know in the comments. Okay, everything is coming through. I am going to paste which group you are in. So if you are in the group that's public versus private, you will know. So when you're commenting, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, I think you know it, and anyone can see your comments. In addition, my membership Stand Up and Thrive, I always do a Facebook Live for the start of cart open and the end and when cart closes. Today is cart close day. So at 9 o'clock tonight, Stand Up and Thrive closes to new members. Stand Up and Thrive is a membership. It's a paid membership for left behind spouses. So if you would like more information on that, you can click through one of the links and get that information. That way I can go through and make sure to get to the questions instead of going over the membership. Let me make sure that, okay, yep. So I went through on the public group, and here's coming the private group. Always have to make sure, did I do it to the right one? I just did it to the wrong one. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, let me grab that again. And basically, if you're in the group that has the shitty toilet as the banner at the top, that's the private group. Okay, now to the public group, putting the comment in again. Okay, so let's get started. And like I said, I'll be going back and forth between screens because I have to use my computer to read the questions for today. So, number 1, we have Kat. Kat is a female left behind and forward moving spouse. She has a bomb drop of April 23rd, 2022, a date of marriage of 2016, but together since 2006. Her MLCer is at home, and he is a low energy wallower. Kat says, why do MLCers focus on the spouse as the problem? At bomb drop, he was confused and depressed about a number of things in his life, but recently he's become laser focused on our relationship and me. He's decided I'm the only problem he's ever had. I've been reading about emotionally focused therapy and attachment theory, and it got me thinking about the way teenagers rebel against their parents or their main attachment figure. Could this be something similar? He feels the need to keep reinforcing that he's not in love with me. That might be because he's not getting the reaction he expects. But it reminds me of the stereotypical I hate you teen. Yes. Yes, one of the things that I often say is MLCers regress to 17. Really, they regress to multiple ages. You'll see children in all sorts of different ages. But the main age, especially for escape and avoid, low energy wallower or a high energy replayer, but in that stage, escape and avoid, they regress to 17. So that emotional level, you're seeing it. Yes, absolutely. And you're the attachment figure in that right now. So that would be part of why he is projecting it at you. And think about that. In our spouses' lives, who is the closest figure? That isn't a child, at least. Who is the closest thing that is not themselves for their life and about their life that they can blame? Why do they focus on the spouse as the problem? Because that is usually the spouse, the person who is closest to them, the person who lives right next to them, sleeps right next to them, eats with them, fixes their meals or helps them fix their meals, and helps with the food and helps with everything. It's not mom or dad. Mom or dad are now living somewhere else. Mom or dad are not in their daily lives like you are. They go to work, but they come home to you. So the reason is, why don't they blame themselves then? Because then they're responsible for the fixing it. If something is going wrong in their life, maybe if it's somebody else that's going wrong and it's just causing, they're just a victim of it, then they don't have to solve that. It doesn't mean anything bad about them. They don't have to look inside and figure out what's wrong with them. So your MLCer is saying, nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. It's all you. Now, why? Because if it was him, then the responsibility for fixing it is him. And that's scary. And that means you have to look at yourself and all the things you don't love about yourself, whether they're lovable or not. They could be things that you don't love about yourself because they're things that were done to you. Childhood traumas that are no fault of your own, but you don't want to dredge those up again. Maybe just what they do to you, how they make you feel, or maybe they're embarrassing or shameful. So we're going to project that onto everybody else, and especially you. You're the main target. Emotional focused therapy, I'm really glad you're reading about that, because that is the therapy that was designed for affair recovery. Now, you may not be at recovery yet, but it is good that all of us think about and know about emotionally focused therapy as something to look toward, because that's the one where it's made to help you feel safe together in the therapeutic environment. So I'm really glad you're looking about that. But he's projecting onto you because you're the attachment figure, like you said, the main parent in this. And because you're the easiest in a sense, because you're the closest to it. And accepting what that means, accepting the why of that is going to be helpful for your detachment. Accepting that it's not really about you. It's not really your fault, but not just that, is why are they not accepting blame, that it's not about me and I don't need to take this in, or why are they behaving so radically when it's obviously not about me? It's just easier to blame somebody else. It's easier to say the problem is yours. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 2. Number 2, we have an anonymous left behind and forward moving spouse. With female forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of April 23, 2023, a date of marriage of 2008. He is a boomerang and a high energy replayer. She says, how do I stop making it about me? Which is different than, why is he making it about me? The alienator was a 24-year-old student at bomb drop. I even drove her to a work-related matter. And now I understand why he was weirdly nervous about me wanting to get back to work in my profession. I believe they had at least an emotional affair in the spring before bomb drop. It makes sense why he was claiming he was going to meet his friends so often. Probably more than emotional, but yeah. He's divorcing me now. He lied to my family and is lying to the court. He's trying to show that I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad wife, and I am unstable. Why can't he just admit he left his family for an affair? He sent me ridiculous emails saying he's finally healing For my psychological, now before I read the end of this, I wanted to tell you I did laugh at this because there's a little bit of a dangling in the grammar. He, so he sent me a ridiculous email saying he's finally healing from my psychological and physical abuse with his new girlfriend. And I know that you mean in the relationship with his new girlfriend, he's able to heal from the abuse, but what it really says is he's healing from the psychological abuse with her. And there probably is psychological abuse with her. So sorry, I got a little bit of a laugh out of that. Okay. He's doing a lot of what people do. Now, first, some of this is the answer that I gave to number one. Why can't he just admit he left his family for an affair? It's very similar to why am I the problem? Why did they blame me? Well, because if he wanted to admit that, then he'd admit he's the problem. If he were to admit that, then he would be to admit his shame. Now, the other thing about this is what kind of person, and I hate saying that, but in MLC, they're a different kind of person. What kind of person has an affair? Now, what kind of person then admits to it? Very few are going to admit to it. The person who is able to acknowledge their sins, the person who is able to acknowledge their faults, their issues, without projecting it onto another, is not the person who can't admit to it. So if he were a person who could acknowledge those things, he wouldn't be a person in MLC. He can't admit to it because he can't face the mirror. He can't admit to it because it's about him and it highlights his flaws, and he doesn't want to protect, he's in denial that they exist. Even when he knows they exist. Yes, he knows he's having an affair, but at the same time, many of them will make up reasons why this time I'm the exception to it being okay. This is the exception to it being okay because you were horrible. Okay, he's got that one down, right? I'm the exception to it being okay because I'd already left you when we started it. Now, that's regardless of if they planned it. So my husband Chuck's affair was not physical when he was still at home, but they were planning. In fact, he told me that. He said, we are waiting. That still makes it infidelity. It's still an affair. He knows it's wrong. Why can't he admit it? Well, would you want to walk up and go to your family, your mom, and tell her while you're still doing it? Not that it's when it's over, but while you're still doing it. Maybe when it's still over, but he is probably still having an affair with her. Or he's still in the throes of the affair of if she's gone, because she was a student, there's a longing. Would you want to go up to your mom and admit that you did this to your wife or your husband? And that takes a lot of courage to do that. And I don't know how many of us have that kind of courage to admit that we committed this kind of act. Admitting to small things that's one thing, but an affair isn't a small betrayal. So I think it takes an amazing person to admit that they've had an affair. Now, there's a difference. There are some who, my husband, he didn't admit to having an affair. He admitted to having a girlfriend, and it was okay. So he wasn't going and saying, yes, I'm having an affair. When you use that kind of a language, you're acknowledging some level of wrongdoing. Many of them take the affair partner and introduce him to family and everything, but they're not going to acknowledge that there's anything wrong with it. That's the difference. So why can't he bring her out into the open? Because they know. Some people just can't because they won't cross. It's not that they won't cross a line, but they are more ashamed of it than others. And I don't know why. Chuck's pretty good on shame, but he had no problem bringing her out. And the other part of it is bringing it out into the open, which might be a different thing than you're asking, is also dependent on what she's saying and doing about it. In my situation with Chuck, that alienator was emotionally blackmailing him and pressuring him. She put a ring on her finger, an engagement ring, for the first visit. I think it was the first one with his parents. And this was not a planned visit. there was a family gathering and he just brought her. So they weren't expecting it. A woman who wasn't me, they knew he had left. So there was that. And there was talk because he hadn't been secretive about having someone. But he brought her and she was wearing a ring. And I guess asked about it. This was either the first, if not the second meeting, but it was within the first 2 weeks of him having, within a month of him walking out the door, not bombed up, but actually getting out of the house. And within a few days, I think, of the relationship becoming physical. So sometimes maybe they show it to other people, to the world, to make it public because of pressure from the alienator. And some alienators are, they may not like it, but they're accepting of their status as the hidden one. It also could be about the age difference. As for all of this, he is projecting onto you. He is trying to make you out to the bad guy. How do you stop making it about you? Or how do you make him stop making it about you? That's your first question. How do I stop making it about me? Well, the phrasing is that you're making it about you. But what you're talking about here is he's making it about you. Don't buy into it. It is his crisis. It is his problem. And you can ignore his projections. You can throw them back at you and you refuse to take them personally. You can, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. You can, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you and I both know that's not true. It's not, you and I both think that's not true. Make it a statement of fact, but it's not open for discussion. You know what? You're talking to me inappropriately right now. When you are ready to speak civilly, you may call me back. Click. That is a strong boundary. You could just click without saying that, but I like that you show an empathy and you leave an exit clause to the, you may call me back when. Because some of this is abusive. He may not be doing it directly to you if he's telling other people or the courts. And you need to have someone on your side. You need to have a lawyer on your side that is fighting for you, okay? Because I can't tell, there's not enough information, if he's just in the beginning and you're not quite a year in, but if he's just being an absolute bully across, where some of them are just bullies and they stay that way for a long time, or this is a lot of bluster for the beginning when he's afraid and he's just left and he's just filled with his anger and you are an obstacle in his way and he may cycle, and we will see. Your job is to work on your healing, of course, work on your detachment. And no matter what you do, no matter what he yells at you, you throw back grace. That doesn't mean you don't have the boundaries. Remember what I said, how we clicked that telephone? You are being inappropriate. I'm not going to stay on this call. You may call me when. It is first rooted in a tone. So right now I'm trying to emulate the tone, a tone of empathy. But it also is a firm tone of empathy. Then you follow it with firm, clear action is the click. But before that is you've given out. You're not ending the relationship, in other words, because he can call you when. Now, it doesn't mean he ever will or won't try and taunt you with anything, because they'll go to all lengths and taunt you with the strangest things, and that's what they are going to do. We can't control them. Your job, being grace, because it's the right thing to do, not because this is what you do as a standard or not. It's because grace is how we should treat everybody, but with boundaries. And it takes practice, practice, practice. Because it's not about you. I just want you to know, it's not about you. He chose to cheat. He chose to cheat. Now, that doesn't mean he chose to have a midlife crisis. And a midlife crisis is a symptom of the cheating, yes. But these are his behaviors, and it is from whatever traumas or shadow parts inside of him, not you. So you're going to focus on you. You're going to work on your healing, go into therapy if you need to. I recommend it. And gal, get a life. That means if getting a life for you is sitting at home reading, do it. Lots. I mean, when I say reading, for your healing and for your education and information. If gal is going out and socializing, do it. Or do a combination. Take classes. Get yourself out there. Because detachment and healing is an attractive force. And you are going to show him that you are strong and that he is not going to be able to bully you into becoming unstable. He's not going to gaslight you so that you actually think you're those things. In the face of this, what is it? When they go low, we go high. You show grace. And that grace can be seen. It can be seen by the courts, and it can be seen by him. And he will try to take advantage of things in the beginning, but you stay consistent. That means with your boundaries, as well as the grace, because he's going to try to knock you off of it. Okay? Okay, we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of June 5th, 2022, a date of marriage of 2000. She has an off and on who is a low-energy wallower. She says, at bomb drop, he told me that he had feelings for my friend. He says, I'm no fun, and I didn't support him enough during our marriage. He didn't feel safe being his true self around me. That sounds some script in there. But that he does feel safe when he's around her. This all started shortly after he lost both of his parents within a year. He didn't mention any of this throughout our marriage. I thought we were best friends. Well, he didn't mention it because it wasn't like that. That's not how it was. He left in May of 2023. So notice June of 2022. So almost a year before he left. Okay. I'm struggling with what to say to my kids who are 15. We have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. It was a total shock to them. Now, one question. Was the shock June 5th at bomb drop, or was it a year later for them? Just for clarification. No, we can figure that out later too. They're confused. Yeah. I feel like I'm lying to them by saying that the decision for Dad to leave was a mutual decision. I was told to say that by him. Well, yeah. And our marriage counselor. They know that I want our family whole again. Okay, that is good. They know that I want our family whole. My son is struggling and often doesn't want to go over to Dad's place when it's time. We share 50-50 and switch every 3 days. I feel like they need to know or have some insight as to what is going on with their dad. Okay, so the first thing is I did prepare for this a link. There are actually 2 links for this. Let me find it. So I agree with you about not wanting to do it as a mutual decision. And sometimes I want to know why counselors say that. I can see the united front thing. Well, a united front is really great when you're trying to discipline your children and you back each other up, right? And so what does this mean? If you don't show a united front, does it mean that they are able to split you and put you against each other? Yeah. But of course, you're splitting up. So can't they figure that out anyway? So I wish I knew more about why spouses say that. But I'm going to put in each of the comments these links. So Michelle Wiener Davis, I went and looked up. I said something about how should we tell the kids, and keyworded something about not wanting the united front. So that I found an article by Michelle Wiener Davis. Now, Michelle Wiener Davis is the author of Divorce Busting. She has a website and a forum, and Divorce Remedy. Divorce Busting is actually the forum I started at for my midlife crisis when my husband was in it. So the first link is to the article on Psychology Today, and then the article, she also made a YouTube video to go with it. So we put that. I'm putting that in there as well. So let me click. I'm going to go to each page for this. So let's make sure I am not getting any of the I'm not getting any comments that I'm even making coming through on my screen, which is really unusual. So also, it says live now. I can see the comment on the screen on my computer. So if anyone wants to make a comment, just so I can test it, because none of the comments, usually they come through. I get them, the videos on my cameras on my iPad. And that is odd. None of the comments I'm making. Okay. I'm getting chat comments on YouTube. And I'm not used to watching YouTube. So should I put this in the chat? I'm just going to put this in the chat, guys. Okay. I don't know how that all works. Okay, so I'm going to read yours, the chat piece, if I can get back to it later, since I have at least the one comment. Okay, now let me go back to my screen that has your questions. So, and Michelle Winter Davis is she does promote maintaining the marriage, keeping the marriage as the client, and is there to help. Divorce busting is about when one spouse wants out. And if you want to read those books, I recommend Divorce Remedy. I recommend both, Divorce Busting and Divorce Remedy. Divorce Remedy came after Divorce Busting. Divorce Busting, she goes over solution-oriented brief therapy, which is the modality she uses. And I like it, but I did find it a more technical book than Divorce Remedy. Divorce Remedy, then when I read that, I read it first. I found it first. That was the one with the actual, here's what to do type of stuff. So she just disagrees. And she says she acknowledges that most counselors will say you do the united front. She disagrees because it's a lie. I didn't find her arguments strong. I agree with her about not doing the united front piece. I didn't find the arguments strong. I would like some stronger arguments for it, but it was, you've set up that you don't want to lie. Also, if one of those parents has always been about consistency or about sticking to your vows, and now you're in a united front saying we're giving up our vows, that's confusing to the kids. It's breaking, it's meaning you're not following through with what you have said is something a part of your integrity. Those were her basic arguments. I'm not sure how, but I like you said, they know that you want your family whole again. I think that does it right there, though. You can sit there with your united front and say, your dad and I have decided to divorce. And yet, it does not have to be disunited, but saying, I would like it if we could be whole again. But at this time, that is not what's happening. And we're both saddened by this. It's very passive. So, and I would talk to a counselor, and first I want to hear why. I really do. It's common for counselors to do this, but I want to hear, why do you think, I'm here almost talking to the counselor as though I'm cross-examining them, because it's, why do you think I should lie to my children? Because that's not true. Now I'm saying, now let's try into the tone without cross-examination tone. It's like, okay, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm attacking you and what you're saying when you say this, but I don't feel right with this united front piece because it's a lie. So can you explain to me why that is what is recommended? And that's not, I want to do both. I want to do the cross-examination, but that might get them resistant. But because it is a lie. And I've told my children for years that we stick to our vows. And this situation right here that we are in that has not risen to the level of vow breaking, of where we should break that contract. There are pieces of the vows that were broken, the fidelity thing, but that can be repaired. And it hasn't, and I don't feel that I should be a part of showing it as though I am in agreement with this. So you as the counselor, how can and how can we address that? And how do we do it? It is not my place to tell them dad's having an affair. And eventually they may figure that out for themselves if that's the case. Those are things I want to ask counselors. I don't know that I have any answers for them, but I am with you on not in there. It's not about the United Front. United Front, just that term is, we're doing this. Mom, only one of us is wanting it. I wish that this weren't happening. But this doesn't make the other person the bad guy. There needs to be a way where you can do a united front. In other words, sit there cordially together. Say what's happening, the facts, without saying that you are choosing this action. There's a difference between choosing and accepting. I don't know how to do it, but I think that there needs to be some way to do it. And I wish the counselors, that's who I wish would come up with that, because they're the ones who have already come up with the United Front, know how to do these things somewhat, because we don't like the United Front. So I don't have a whole answer for you, but I do agree with you. And I think most of us here agree with us because we've been told United Front and we hate it. And there are plenty of you out there that are listening that have refused to do it. And if you've done it and you have done things where it has actually worked, I don't know, my anger when, the MLC, but where it's worked with the children, let us know and respond and tell us how that has gone on. Okay, we're going to go on to number 4. Number 4, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of April 22nd, 2023. That looks a lot like 2 different people with almost the exact same date. Okay. April 22nd, 2023, date of marriage of 2006, a boomerang. She's not familiar with the energy level terms. She says, could bomb drop have actually been 6 years ago? In this case, I'm going to say no right now, and then I'll explain why. We'd been doing okay overall in our marriage from 2011 to 2018. Then in March of 2018, he said he wanted a divorce. This was a shock, but I was willing to give him what he wanted. And when I was willing, he panicked. He changed his mind. He said he wanted to work on us. But he was only 33. That's one reason I say, could it have been 6 years ago? No, I'm not really going there. Also, I'm not going there because he panicked. So in April 2023, he started questioning our compatibility. I got the I love you, but I'm not in love with you, and everything else that goes with it, she said. I thought things were going great, even making comments on how much he loved me and how I've grown more beautiful with age, until bomb drop. He had a good childhood. His trauma is from deployments. We met after his first deployment, and I was there for the other 6. I don't see a lot of teenager child signs from him. Could this be because of where his trauma stems from? I will stand as long as I can, and I'm assuming I need to buckle up for the bumpy ride. There's a possible alienator he met at work, but I can't prove it. He hasn't filed, and he hasn't told his family. He left our home, and he wants a divorce. So the basic question, or the basic answer is, no, I don't think your bomb drop was 6 years ago. Here's what can happen, though. And it did. What it was you kind of would have had a bomb drop if it had taken. Midlife crisis or not, there's something, and maybe it is due to the deployments and that kind of a trauma. Yeah. And how long after the deployments was this? Maybe he was having some transition issues as well and didn't think he could get through it, so he had to make up an excuse. I can't say. But one of the things we do see happen is they give you your bomb drop, then you go through the MLC, or you go into MLC. And either it doesn't take, and you feel like, oh, we had a really bad month. Bomb drop said he wanted to leave, even left for 3 weeks, or that sort of thing. And what happens is I say they're yanked out of the tunnel. Or they can go through what feels like an entire MLC, or it's a short one. Commonly short one. 2 years instead of 3 to upwards of 7, even 3 years, because 3 years is short, even if it's within range. Yanked out the front. Or basically what it is they do not complete their tunnel journey. So if they're really far in, maybe they just, I always say there's those little holes on the top of the train where people pop out in the adventure movies and fight up on top. Well, they pop out one of those holes and get off the train. So they didn't complete the journey. And it does feel like there are vacations, or when they're cycling, they seem better and not better. And then, so yanked out the front, or they just pop out. But they're not through their journey. They haven't integrated these shadow pieces. And you don't work on it. In other words, you don't go to therapy. Well, and it could be any of these with pieces. You could go to therapy and not have reintegrated, so it still comes back. Or maybe you don't go to therapy, but they've reintegrated a lot of things, but still don't do some of the ending healing. Okay. You don't go to therapy. It's usually, usually those who don't go to some form of therapy, it's rug sweeping. Oh, we figured we could handle it on our own. Oh, it wasn't that much of a big. Oh, or we just put it off and never happened to do it. Been there. Yeah. And so you don't get a professional to help you heal through these things. And maybe that professional could be someone who would help with the integration of the completion of that journey. Don't know. Or maybe they could then, if they recognize that this is premature for the return, if they recognize that, they could, most likely they'd say it wasn't really a midlife crisis then. It was just an affair or something like that, if that was the case. But if they recognize this, maybe they could then recommend or refer to someone who is more specialized with helping with transitions and life transitions and that kind of shadow work rather than couples work. So that's what I see is very common, is you get it, they go start to have their crisis, and it doesn't quite take, or it takes, but they get done early, prematurely. We have a lot of them, really, that show up on the boards and they think we're through the crisis. Mine came home. And maybe that's true, really. But what I see in those cases is 10 years later, you're 6 and he was young, but not a few months later. If there's another bomb drop after 3 months, it's the same crisis. If there's another bomb drop after a year, it's the same crisis, even 2 years. But 10 years, things either they don't, it's not that they get better, maybe they just go to status quo rug sweeping and we put that behind us, or they get better, whatever. But sometimes it's just you've come back and you go back to what was. 10 years later, they go in for their full MLC and it is worse. So, is that what's going on? I can't tell you. But I do want you to know that there is that kind of dynamic that happens. Now, the next piece. Could his trauma, since you're not seeing childhood signs of him, he's not regressed to a teenager or other children, child ages, to immaturity. Could this be because of where his trauma stems? It's the first time I've had that question, I think. So it's not something I've thought about, but yeah, I would think so. That definitely makes sense. What the type of therapist, as an individual therapist, if you were to get one, I would want somebody who specializes in PTSD with military. And of course, you might be listening going, oh yeah, darn, he's not willing to do it. And unfortunately, he has to get there. He has to get there on his own. But that's what I would hope for him, is if he had somebody who specialized in helping the trauma from military trauma. I mean, we might all have somebody who specializes in PTSD. Yeah, great. I would really like him to have somebody who specializes in his specific traumas as well, though. So we can have PTSD, the left behinds. But for them, I wouldn't recommend you go to someone who specializes in military trauma, specialize in somebody with infidelity or that. But for him, I really would like somebody that can understand from an experiential and or academic standpoint what he has gone through and knows how to help him through because of that. He hasn't filed. Sometimes they don't. Okay. Sometimes you end up filing because it goes on years. Sometimes they eventually file after years. Your job is to heal. I'm going to say that with every one of you. Your job is to heal. Your job is to detach. Your job is to focus on you, to do your growth, to do your development, to make sure you have insight, because he doesn't. And you are an attractive force. And the only way to get to reconciliation, doesn't guarantee you get there, but if you don't do it, you don't get there, is healing, detachment, And to me, the greatest tool in your detachment toolbox is mindfulness. So I recommend working on mindfulness activities. Other stuff, yeah. But mindfulness is going to help you with the emotional regulation that you need. Okay? Okay, I'm going to move on to number 5. And we have Donald Duck. He says, may I use your name? No, sorry, Donald Duck. Donald the Duck. Donald the Duck. Okay. So, male, female left behind. Female. Male left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of November 14th, 2023. A date of marriage of 2005, and he has an at-home low energy Wallower. He says, do they know that they're lying or do they believe it? My wife recently drove 13 hours round trip in a day to see the alienator for only 3 hours. She also rented a car to attempt to cover her tracks and made a ridiculous lie that wasn't even believable. I'm amazed, and I'm also amazed at how little they sleep. First thing, I think that there are times when they don't know they're lying, but in general, I think so. Yeah, that sort of thing, yes, she knows she's lying. There are pieces where they can convince themselves. Here are the things that they can convince themselves that aren't lies. You were a terrible husband. You're a terrible father. You were abusive to me. And then they're going to look back, and in this moment when they say you were abusive to me, first thing, if you never physically hit them, they know that's a lie if they mean physical abuse. But one of the things we say around here is infidelity is abuse. So there's an abuse. There's the emotional abuse. So they're going to say that you were emotionally abusive. And what they're going to do in their brain is recalling the times of negativity. Because our brain remembers the bad times easier and better. It's easier to recollect. And then now in their midlife crisis confusion, they have to interpret those negative times. And they're reinterpreting. This goes to rewriting history. They're reinterpreting that, oh, that is because I felt this way because he had done this. And sometimes they aren't recalling events together. They're taking events that are separate and they are remembering them together, or they're just reinterpreting events. They have to put some form of interpretation on the event that makes sense with the emotion. And their interpretation now comes out, I must have been abused. So there are things they can say where they are not really, where they believe the lie. They believe the untruth, let's call it, instead of a lie even. Because to me, a lie is something where you know you're doing it. I put knowing in the definition of lying, but that's not what you're asking. You're asking it is if they're telling an untruth, do they know it? Now, if your MLCer is going to go on a weekend away with the alienator, they're planning it. And they're telling you they're going somewhere else. Yeah, they know they're lying. What my friend Lingy's husband would do is he was an at-home MLCer, and he regularly went on weekends away with the alienator, ski weekends and things. And there was a window, like at the sink with their kitchen, and the bedroom was right above that. And one day, Lingy's at the kitchen, and luggage started falling out of the sky. She already knew he was doing something. She knew he was preparing to go away. He did this all the time. But on this occasion, he's trying to hide something. So he's throwing the suitcases out the upper window. I don't think he was unaware that he was lying and trying to hide something. And they will go to many means. So she rented a car to cover her tracks. That's deliberate. And you said it was ridiculous. She made a lie that was so ridiculous that you couldn't believe it. We all can tell. Some of the lies are, well, if we just go fact check these things, and a simple research can tell us this. Why would they lie about that? Sometimes I think it's, oh, well, we won't double check on these things. So some of it could be, he's not going to double check on these things, so I think I can get away with the lie. But that's why they lie, not whether they believe they're lying. Yeah. The examples you've given She knows she's doing it. And one of the things, 10 tenets of MLC, axiomatic, MLCers lie. Some people, I think it was Old Pilot from the forum, have said believe nothing they do, or believe everything they, and half of something. But I don't quite, a lot of people say, just don't believe anything. I don't go with that. I want you to listen to them. I don't, because if you don't believe anything, then you dismiss everything. I want you to listen, because buried within are criticisms that may be valid, or criticisms that give you insight into what they're feeling, thinking, fearing. So the criticism might not be valid. You always were like this to me. And then you think back, wait a second, that sounds a lot like his mom. Is he projecting what happened to him in childhood onto me? And then the insight that you're getting is not just that, but okay, there's things that some of those traumas from childhood, they're starting to surface right now. They're really bothering him. And he may not be aware that that is what is causing this angst inside. Because think about it, angst is just this general term. We don't know what it's about. But he's feeling these things. And then he's able to somehow identify something, but not really name it, because he puts it on you, not the person who's the actual perpetrator. So it's really important to listen to her. But she's lying. Yeah. I'm sorry. And she will go to all sorts of ends if she's in limerance. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 6. Number 6, we have Monica. Monica has a bomb drop of March. Okay, wait. I don't know the bomb drop because it says March 9th, 1968. And I don't think that's the bomb drop. So I don't know if this means if this is a full typo or March 9th is accurate and it's 2018. I don't know. She says the date of marriage is 1995. She has a clinging boomerang who's a high energy UV player. So, and while I'm going to read this, and then while we're talking, I'm going to switch to my others, since none of, and maybe it's just that, maybe I have the settings on, wrong, that I can't see chats. Oh, I do. There are tons of comments. Oh my goodness. It was just an area. So after I am done with this one, I am going to go over and read through. Okay. Sorry guys, I'd never seen that sidebar, and I don't know how it got selected. Another one was selected. Okay. Monica says, my husband lives with his girlfriend. Oh, this is good. He's 64 and she's 32. They work together. We already dismissed the divorce once. Yes, you're right, clinging boomerang. And he moved back home, but he went back a month later. First thing, that's not uncommon. He does come home to sleep 1 or 2 nights a week. So the next question I have is, why are you allowing him to do that? Okay. I've heard they're engaged, though he denies this to me. I always wonder about this, because you didn't say you're divorced because you mentioned that you dismissed it. Can you really be engaged and married? Just a thought. But when he comes to our house, we fight, and I mostly started as the woman scorned. Okay. So that is really, Monica, I'm really glad that you are admitting and acknowledging that. She says, I know I'm pushing him right back to her every time. Yeah. How should I behave to help him work through this? Do I go on dates as well? No, it's not about you dating. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but no, it is not about that. I never wanted the divorce, but his coming and going is very difficult on me. Okay, so the first question I want to ask you, Monica, is, are you seeing somebody? What are you doing? Because you need help working through your scorned anger. Because clearly, I mean, you know what's causing him to leave again. The fighting that you are often adding to this. What does he have to fight with if you don't fight with him? It doesn't mean we want you to be passive. And I don't want you to let him come home. There is a codependency here, because why would he come home to somebody who he knows? And he knows, because there's a pattern of this, as you've described, somebody who is going to push him, who's going to fight with him, who is going to push him and instigate an argument with him. Why would he keep coming home? So there's a codependence, because if I were advising him, why are you going back to her? She won't let up. She won't let up. She won't stop arguing with me. She won't stop. And if it's really scorned, when's she going to slash your tires? So there's that. What I want you to do first, I want there to be a boundary. He doesn't get to come home when he's having an affair with somebody else. Oh, and then he's going to tell you that he is pushing you, and you are pushing him into her arms. Isn't he already there? And you've heard that he's engaged to her. He denies it. Stop asking. Okay, stop asking. He knows he's got you, and he is feeding off of both of you. And she can feel really safe right now, because you're playing the part of the alienator, in the sense of you're being the scorned. She doesn't have to worry, because you're the one doing the destroying rather than her. If you started being the good and perfect wife, and I don't mean passive, I mean caring, boundaries, attractive force, but boundaries. But what's so great about Monica? She's strong. He's looking at you all the time. He's wanting to go back to, let her get jealous of you. Let her then start to be the scorned. Let her be the affair down. Let her be the one that doesn't have to be, that has to be afraid. Because you're so afraid that maybe she is, but she doesn't have a reason to be right now, because you're ruining it for her. You're doing her job. Okay? And so what I want you to do is I want you to work on detachment, but I think you need more help with it. I think you need to get into a counselor, and maybe some other things that are really great with detachment are the groups like Al-Anon. I want you working on detachment and codependency. Not being codependent, being detached, or not being attached. Because as long as you're doing this, first thing, he's a clinging boomerang, and there is a codependent, toxic relationship in that, in that he comes home to somebody who fights with him. And so I am the exception to when I said you don't reconcile if you don't heal. Let me rephrase it and say you don't get a solid, stable, functional reconciliation, functional marriage. But there are people who they come back to each other with guns at their heads, type of thing, and they just go on this crappy marriage, and we're stuck together, and they're the Bickersons or whatever, unhappy living together. And you don't want that either. That is not stable. It is not healthy. It is toxic. You get yourself better. And if he is this codependent with you, this needy for you, you healthy can maybe be a mirror for him to become that as well. Okay? And maybe, not only that, great to be a mirror to him, you may also decide, I don't want that. I'd still hope that it's a mirror for him. Okay? Okay, I am going to look at these since I'm going to read through a bunch without commenting so that I make sure I get them. Okay, so we've got one. My husband admitted to dating a woman. He said that he decided to put all his energy into her. He said it was allowed because I told him once that I had been drinking a cup of coffee with somebody. Sorry. Okay, I do love the absurdities they come with. And so your response to that, it could be to laugh at the absurdity and say, I'm sorry you feel that way. But, you and I both know that's not true. You and I both know, in this case, it's not a true false. It's an appropriate inappropriate. You and I both know that is an excuse, but it is not a justification, because it doesn't justify it. And it is not as a reason, and it is not reasonable. So there are things such as accepting also. Accepting doesn't mean acceptable. Reason doesn't mean reasonable. And I think that's where excuse is a better word. Okay, let me go on. We've got a high and a test. Sorry. More highs. Okay. And I forgot something important. I don't know which one number you are, and this was over 20 minutes ago. I forgot something important. They met 20 years ago in MySpace. They've been in a friendship since then, but things got intimate 2 years ago. So not sure which one that goes with. Although I'm pretty sure that it's not the 24-year-old. And hold on, not the 24-year-old. It's most likely he has feelings for your friend. That's what I am. Or could Brom have been 6 years ago? He was only 33. Could be that one, but he would have been pretty young. So not really. I don't know that it really makes a difference. They've been in a friendship since, but things got and you're married for 15. Okay. Hold on a second. I know where to go for this. Hold on. If I look on the other, when I look up here on my screen, it doesn't show who it is. But if I look on the other screens down, if I go to the group, it'll show me your names. So that might make a difference. Hold on. I have to figure out which group I'm in and look on the correct page. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. And okay. Okay. Sorry, now I can see who's saying the names. A few of you. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my page for a second. Okay. Okay, I think that covers pretty much everything if I haven't gotten it, because the comments aren't lining up fully, that I can say something and go back to it. We are at, wow, we're at 2 minutes under an hour. So Detachment or Stand Up and Thrive closes tonight at 9 o'clock. It is 2 o'clock my time here, so that is in 7 hours. So if anybody is interested, you could just follow the links to Detach and Stand Up and Thrive. There are also links at the website if you go in there and you just scroll down, click on the little blurbs where it talks about there's a membership. And there's also some in the Facebook page, but most of these chats in the description for the upcoming, I put them there as well. So if you're interested in that, other than that, keep submitting your questions. When it is not a launch week, I do three questions a week. Singular questions. I just pre-record them. It'll say she's going live now. It's pre-recorded. Okay. And I usually put them out in the morning times, in my morning times, on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So I do 3 a week. So if I receive 6 in a week, you might not get yours for a little while. When I get backed up, then we've got this, and I can do 6 to 8 at a time. So we get 2 weeks where I do around 15 in 2 weeks, and that usually helps. Okay. So if you would like me to be able to talk to you faster, answer you faster, joining Thrive is that. I also answer questions for people in Thrive, not just in our live meetings, but people do submit the same way you do here, but I'm not limiting myself. I don't get enough of them because they get up. I haven't done 3 a week because they get them in the live sessions, but I would love to do more and more and more. Okay, so just keep submitting. And if you're interested, I will see you in Thrive. Okay, bye-bye.